As Laurent said a few days ago, just before the conference started actually, we at EDRLab released Thorium version 2. It is an important milestone in the life of this community project, open source project, so I'm really excited to be able to share some of the details with you today. In this presentation, I will be highlighting a set of key features, and at the end of the presentation, I'll be showing you a few items on our roadmap, future work that we have in the project later this year. So a quick word about myself. I'm Daniel. I work with EDRLab, with the DAISY consortium, as Laurent mentioned, and historically as well, I was involved with the Readium Foundation. So that gives you a picture of my work family for the past decade, actually a little over a decade now. I originally intended to do a live demo of Thorium, but the stage is not really geared up for this today, so I'm going to use static screenshots, and I'll do my best to describe them to you, the audience, in an entertaining way. All right, so Thorium is an application for desktop operating systems, and that is Windows, Mac, and Linux. And this is how it looks. So this is on Mac, but the interface is the same on Windows and Linux, exactly the same. This is the main window. We call it the library window. This is where I find my local bookshelf, my online catalogues. We'll go back to this in another slide. This is also where I can configure the app, the application settings. And it's what you would expect from a reader application. You can see the cover images, title, author, and a stream of publications in my bookshelf. Thorium, because it's a desktop app, can open multiple reader windows, so something like that. That can be handy if I have to do some comparative study on some text, but really the main use case is to have the window open, occupying the full screen, and that's a typical two-page spread, page on the left, page on the right. It's reflowable text, and here displayed with the default publisher's font and settings in terms of the size of the text and the margins and all of that. But as a user, I may need to or wish to use a different font, different colors, different spacing between words and paragraphs and so forth. So this is also Thorium, but it looks completely different. So here we're in dark mode. It's also high contrast in this case, which can be useful to some readers. I'm using a typeface that benefits readers with dyslexia. It's similar to Open Dyslexic. It's a font that actually ships with Thorium. You don't have to download it. I've increased the line spacing here because I find it more comfortable to read that way. And also one main difference on this screenshot is that it's a vertical scrolling page, much like a web page, instead of a paginated sequence of pages with different columns of text. So as you can see, it's very configurable to meet the user requirements. Thorium is translated into 18 languages today, thanks to our wonderful international contributors. So I am going to read out loud those languages because some of you in the audience can't see the screen. So we've got English, French, Portuguese, Swedish, Russian, Lithuanian, Italian, Japanese, Dutch, Spanish, Galician, Catalan, German, Finnish, Chinese, Korean, Georgian, and Basque. Recent introductions, Basque, Catalan, Galician, and Spanish, as the lady mentioned in the first presentation today. So what's missing here? Right to left languages. Right to left, so Arabic, Hebrew. So Thorium can open and can render books in Arabic and Hebrew, but the user interface is not yet compatible with those languages. It has to be from right to left. So we'll be working on that, hopefully, with new contributors in the coming months. So this is how the language can be changed in Thorium. By default, when you install the application, it uses the language of the operating system. For example, I'm a Frenchman, but I use English computers because I live in the UK, so I can switch between English and French. That's no problem at all. And you can see that the list of languages is displayed here using the script of the locale. So we have Cyrillic characters, Korean, Chinese, and so forth. All right, so Thorium supports multiple publication formats. obviously EPUB, EPUB version 2 and EPUB 3, it supports reflowable documents as well as fixed layout. So fixed layout is similar to PDF, but it's EPUB version of it. Thorium also supports media overlays. That's the technical term to describe synchronized text and audio playback on the screen. I will show you a static screenshot of that later on without audio, so you'll have to imagine it all. Thorium supports DAISY digital talking books, so we can import DAISY 202 and DAISY 3 books, full text, full audio, or text and audio mixed together. We also support audiobooks in the W3C format, as well as the Readium variant of that, which Laurent described earlier today. We support Divina, digital comics. This is research and development. And we have basic support for PDF, so we're not the best PDF reader. In fact, we use an off-the-shelf library to render PDF files. We don't do it ourselves. So our support is pretty basic, but it works. So this is an example of a book, an HTML chapter of that book that contains mathematics. And these mathematical equations, they're encoded in the HTML using MathML. ML stands for markup language. We render MathML using MathJax, which is a library that any of you can download. It's open source, and it does a pretty good job at showing MathML. Behind the scenes, what you're seeing here is actually a web app. So it uses a web browser engine called Chromium. It's the same one that's used in Google Chrome, the web browser, in Microsoft Edge, the recent version of their web browser, and many other web browsers on Android. Chromium doesn't support MathML by default, so this is why we have to use a separate library in order to show it correctly. And finally, what I want to mention in this slide is MathML is accessible. So if I'm a screen reader user, I can use Thorium and I can read the mathematical equations through my screen reader, and they'll tell me what the structure of the math is, and they'll talk to me. Thorium also has its own built-in TTS read aloud experience, and we can also extract meaningful information from the MathML and pass it on to the text-to-speech engine so that I can listen to the math. So next here we have a screenshot of an audiobook playing in Thorium. This is what you would expect from an audiobook experience, the ability to place bookmarks, to access a table of contents. Here we see a cover image. The title of the track is above the cover image. And of course, we have a scrub bar to go to a particular location in the audio stream, back, forward, etc. Nothing too special there. As previously mentioned today, we support audiobooks encrypted and protected with LCP. This is a fixed layout book. It's one that is often shown in presentations just because it looks beautiful. So here on the left page, we have, you can't see it here because it's static, but it's a very animated sequence. It's actually a video playing in the background, and it just looks like hand-drawn illustrations, animated. They're beautiful. On the right-hand side is a highly interactive page. As the user, I can click on the text, and it'll show me definitions. I can play on the, I can click on the play button that's on the frog here at the top, and it will start talking the text to me. So it's very interactive and wonderful-looking, typical fixed layout, enriched publication. This one is also fixed layout, but if you look at the top, in the top bar, you can see the playback controls for audio. This is because it's synchronized text and audio playing together on the screen. So on the left-hand side, you can see the text that's highlighted with a purple background. That is the text that's currently playing out, reading aloud the text that's highlighted. And the pages themselves include their own play button. They have their own interactivities built into the page. Note that EPUB3 media overlays, which we're looking at here, also works in reflowable documents, not just fixed layout. I just showed this because it's pretty. All right, so how do I get books into Thorium? Well, I can drag and drop files from my hard drive. But I can also use OPDS catalogues. We have a built-in support for OPDS 1, the original version, Atom, XML, and as well as OPDS 2, based on JSON. So with that, you can browse online public feeds, download free samples. You can also make purchases. But this is not an in-app experience. We take you to an external web browser, your favorite web browser on your computer, and you can purchase books from there, log into a portal, and then you come back to Thorium. You can authenticate, provide your username and password into a particular portal, and from there you have access to your personal bookshelf. And at that moment, you have an in-app experience of downloading the books you borrowed. You can actually borrow books and return books as well if you're a library member directly from Thorium, and that's all powered by LCP. You saw the presentation this morning, and this is very, very powerful. So here's an example of a public feed. It's Feedbooks. As you can see, it looks just like my local bookshelf. It's a similar sort of experience. When I open the information sheet for a particular book, I have the choice of importing an extract from that book, so basically download and read a sample, a free sample, or I can click on the Buy Book button, and that takes me to an external web browser. And you can see the price is indicated here in the page. This is a personal bookshelf at Kantuk Station. It's one of our test feeds. So I'm logged in. I use my email address and my password. Thorium asks it once and for all, and it remembers me. And I have 4 books, because I borrowed them earlier on, so they're in my bookshelf. And when I look at the information sheet for any of these books, I can download the EPUB and add it to my local bookshelf, so I don't have to be online. I can have it offline and read it whenever I want. You can also see the dates in the bottom left corner here. So this book will expire on the 21st of June. And at that point, I won't be able to open it anymore. I can extend the loan if it's provided by the service, the library service, or I can borrow another one. Let's talk about accessibility. We have a good accessibility story because it's at the core of our design requirements. We offer full keyboard usage in the application throughout, so mouse or keyboard, or the two together. As I previously mentioned, there is a built-in TTS, text-to-speech reading experience in Thorium, a read-aloud experience. I will show you a screenshot of that too. I also mentioned that we can change the fonts, the line spacing, the colors, etc. And we, thanks to our wonderful community, we regularly test screen readers. So I'm a sighted user. I can use screen readers a little bit, but I'm not very good at it. We have blind users. They're very good at it. We rely on them to give us feedback. And we test NVDA, JAWS, Narrator, and on Mac, VoiceOver, of course, Apple's own screen reader. We actually score 100% at the EPUBTest.org test suite. We're very proud about that. I should caveat that by saying it's not actually 100% because we don't yet implement the annotations features. So we lose score on that. But I'm very confident that this year, hopefully, when we implement this feature, it will pass the tests as well. So let's talk about typefaces and system fonts, by which I mean the operating system, the fonts that are available on my Windows or Mac or Linux. If you look on the right-hand side here, you can see a font chooser, or a font picker. Thorium comes with a very small selection of fonts, sans serif, serif, monospaced, and also this particular one, which benefits readers with dyslexia. So that's only a very small selection, but as a user, I can pick any font from my machine, my computer. So here I've chosen Comic Sans. Some people seem to like to read with this font, so it's your choice. So you may have noticed, if you paid attention, that in some of these screenshots, there's a blue outline around some of the user interface components, and that is a keyboard focus indicator. So whenever I use the keyboard, Thorium knows it, and it shows the keyboard focus indicator, so I know where I am visually in the user interface. Keyboard navigation also requires keyboard shortcuts. So we have sensible defaults in Thorium, but some users might want to, for practical reasons or preference, personal preference, might want to change those shortcuts. So we have an editor in the application settings to change those keyboard shortcuts. It's really easy. You just type them in, and they're automatically recorded. So this is an advanced feature, but I thought you should know. How do I navigate into my publications? A very important feature in any reading system, really, is a go-to-page feature. I want to go to page number 10, let's say. Now, in a PDF file or a fixed layout document, it sort of makes sense. We can all see what a page is. But in a reflowable document, it sort of has several meanings. So what we mean here is that in the digital publication, very often there is a print equivalent. And in print books, there are page breaks. And so imagine you're a student in the classroom and your teacher is asking you to go to page number 10. This is not, you don't have the printed book, you have a digital publication. With Thorium, you can go to that same page number. Now, page numbers can be numbers, but they can also be Roman numerals. So we implement a page picker so that if you don't necessarily have to type the page number, you can pick it from the list and go there. Here on the screenshot, we see that the current page is 231 out of 422. And these are synthetic, print page breaks. In this latest version of Thorium, we introduced a new feature called Where Am I? So when I read a book, it's really important at times that I know what is the reading context that I'm in. And it usually starts with, relative to the table of contents, where am I? What is my nearest heading in the document? So in Thorium, there is a sequence of keys, a keyboard shortcut that takes you right there. You can see where you are in the table of content and decide to go before or after your current heading. Here again, the blue outline is because I've used the keyboard to get there. If you're a mouse user, you will not see that blue outline. But that's not enough. I mentioned page numbers. I need to know, okay, I'm reading this piece of text. Is that in page number 10 or 11 or 12? So in this information sheet, so some sort of a pop-up dialog, I have progression information. So I know that I'm 31% into the current document. That gives me an idea of where I am. I know that it's a chapter titled Encyclopedia Britannica. In this book, there's only one chapter. That's what it tells me here. My current page number is 753, okay? And then at the very bottom there, where the blue keyboard outline is, that's because I've focused on a trail of headings, like a path. So I know that I'm inside the heading level 2, H2 in HTML. The label, the title of that heading is population. And I'm also inside a heading level 1, which here is titled Georgia. Advanced users might want to know more about this trail of headings, so I can click on that, and it unfolds into the full path that leads to my current location. So as you can see, there are several level 2 headings, H2s, at my current reading location. Now, the experience that I've just described for a screen reader user can be quite frustrating because it is a pop-up information sheet. It sort of obscures the text and sort of steals the focus from the accessibility cursor in the text. So we also implemented a screen reader-friendly system, and we use our existing notification system. So in the lower left corner, the green box here is temporary. It shows for a couple of seconds and then disappears. It's a notification. A common term for it is a toast. So a little notification there. So visually I can see it, but more importantly, screen reader users, they hear it. Without losing their reading position, the accessibility cursor in the document. It interrupts whatever that is listening to. For example, if I hit the keyboard shortcut to listen to this, it will immediately speak to me. And as a screen reader user, I can stop it. If it's too verbose, or I actually don't want to listen to this, you just hit the control key and it stops talking to you. And you're still in your book. You haven't lost your position. And here in this little green box, it says current page 753. So we've put it first because the request we've had from our users, especially in the university context where they use digital books, they need to know exactly on what page number they are very quickly. So just hit the key and you get that information first and foremost. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Pop-up footnotes in Thorium looks like this. And it's an opt-out feature. By default, it's activated. If you don't like it, it's an EPUB-free feature. You can disable it and just jump to the bottom of your document or the end of your document where all the footnotes are. But many people like pop-up footnotes because they don't interrupt the flow of reading. You stay where you are in the book. You have a superscript, hyperlink. You click on it. You get that little box there that shows you the pop-up, the note contents. And here in this case, I even have a blue link underlined in blue there that allows me to jump back where I came from, so I never lose my reading position. That's the same book, a different pop-up footnotes, and it's in dark mode. As you can see, it's completely accessible in the sense that we render footnotes using the same color scheme, the same fonts, the same font size that you use to read the main book, the main chapter of the book. Another point worth noting here is that the footnote is actually quite long here. It's several sentences. You can scroll down, you can see it in full. You don't lose any information. As previously mentioned, we have a TTS text-to-speech read-aloud experience that's built into Thorium. You don't need a screen reader. You can just use Thorium to have the books spoken out loud. On this screenshot, there's a yellow highlight on a particular sentence or a paragraph. And I'm not sure you can tell from where you are, but there is an orange underline mark underneath the word that is currently being spoken out loud. So you have to imagine that that line is moving as the text is being spoken. So it tracks the text. You can listen to the TTS at normal speed, or you can increase the speed. You can even decrease the speed if that's what you need to listen to it slowly. As you can see, this is the default view of the document. It's the publisher's preferred way of showing the document. We also offer an alternative view, which extracts the text, make it look bigger, and we highlight the words individually in a different manner, here with a background color. Some users prefer to read that way. It's simpler. It's less contextual because we extract the information, but it suits some users. Another point to note here is in the top bar, there is a voice picker. It's a menu that unfolds, and it shows you the TTS voices available on your computer. And there are male voices, female voices by default, and also a selection of languages. On my English machine, I know I have access to quite a few languages out of the box. Thorium also offers an image zoom feature. Let's have a look. So imagine I'm reading this sort of technical book presented in the usual way, small typeface, quite dense, a lot of information, and there's a diagram on the right-hand side page here, and it's a bit small. I'm struggling to read the text in that picture. I can mouse hover, or put my mouse cursor over that picture, press the Control key, and as you can see, there's a very obvious outline or a border, dashed border in bright pink color, and that indicates that I'm entering a special mode that will allow me to zoom into that picture. Just click on it, and now it occupies the entire viewport of the application, which typically on a desktop computer would be the entire screen, right? So from now I can read the text in the picture. If it's still too small, I can actually zoom further into the picture. I can go back. If I hit the escape key, come out of this mode and go back to the book as normal. In Thorium, we have full text search, by which I mean a publication will have multiple chapters. Each one of these chapters is an HTML document, and we have a built-in search feature for this. That's how it looks. So Control F, your typical keyboard shortcut. I start typing, press Enter, or click the search button, And here I have 2,400 matches for the French word DES, okay? And the highlights are shown in green here, and the highlight that's in red or some sort of pink is the current one. You can go previous, next in your search results, so you can navigate them linearly, and that's the current one. You can also click on each individual highlight, and in the future we will introduce an annotation feature. I will talk about this later. Now, there are 2,400 matches here. It's huge. I really don't want to go next until I find the correct one. So what I can do is just click on the button, and Thorium opens a paginated list of results. So it's paginated in the sense that there are 10 pages of results here, so that I don't have to scroll huge distances on the vertical screen. Each search result is shown in context, so it gives me a snippet of text just before and just after the search result, and the title of the current chapter as well is shown in the list, so it makes it easy for me to figure out where I am. And by the way, this is all accessible using keyboard shortcuts and keyboard navigation. All right, so an important new feature in Thorium 2 is our bookshelf. By default, it still looks the same, so if you like what we had before, you can continue to use it, but the new one I think is very good. It's much more useful than the default mode, so let me talk about it now. It's a data grid, in the sense it's a table. It has columns and rows. Again, we paginate the list of publications, so if you have a few hundred publications, you don't have to scroll forever. There is a basic mode, so that it's not too overwhelming. We only show a limited amount of information, but there's also an advanced mode if you're comfortable looking at more information in the table. So by default, we'll show the title, the author, the publishing date, the description, things like that. This new bookshelf has global search in it. I can type any keyword, and it will find it in the title, in the name of the author, in the description that's supplied in the publication metadata, anywhere. Or I can choose to pick a particular metadata, like the title of the publication, and search only in that field. Every column can be sorted, ordered in descending or ascending order. For example, I can sort alphabetically the author names, or I can also sort in the time domain, like the dates, publishing dates. So which is the most recent published book or the oldest one. Every cell in the table is clickable. I'll show you that in the next slide. So let's say I have a title. One of my favorite authors has a book title in my bookshelf, and I want to see all the books that are from that author. I just click on the author's name, and it just filters the table automatically. No need to type anything, it just happens. So this is the default view. I showed it to you earlier on. Let's move to the next step. This is the new view. There's a button to get to it, or there's a keyboard shortcut, or if you press Control F for searching, you end up there anyway. So see in the top right corner, again, there's a blue highlight around my text input. I typed in accessible, the keyword accessible, with my keyboard, and it's telling me that 10 publications match that keyword out of 200 and something. I can't read. So as a sighted user, this is instant. I just type letters, and search is completely instant in my 300 books here. As a screen reader user, this gets really overwhelming. There's too much information coming in one go. So in Thorium, we have a special mode. As soon as the screen reader is detected, we allow the screen reader user to type in the text and then click on the Submit button. And then the search results are announced. 10 out of 300 publications match this keyword, okay? So let's move on. Some of you probably know that already. In Thorium, as a user, I can add my own tags to publication. I can tag my books so that I add my own keywords in the metadata. Looks a little bit like this. So I've created a bunch of tags here, tag 1, tag 2. As I mentioned before, you can click on any of these cells, and the table will filter instantly and automatically. So let's say I click on the tag 1. See, instantly, I'm presented with the 2 publications that match this tag here. Let's take a real-world example. tags can also be imported automatically from OPDS feeds. So this is from Feedbooks, and we have metadata in the OPDS feed that tells us that this book is fiction, science fiction, adventure, English literature, British literature. There's romance as well. So let's say I click on romance, and that's it. I know I have 2 books that match this particular tag here. Like I said, there is an advanced mode if you need more information, and it just shows more columns, more information. It also shrinks the size of things vertically, so that the rows are less high. I see more information on the screen. So this is why we call it an advanced mode here. Note how the tags column header is highlighted in blue there, and also there's a little arrow next to it. It's an arrow that goes up. It means it's sorted in alphabetical ascending order. So you can see that the tags are sorted alphabetically here. Next slide, pay attention to another column header. This is a date, so we can sort the books by date. And this is the date at which I last read the book. So I know which are the books that I recently read and the books that I read a long time ago and I haven't finished yet. So note the number of columns here on this page. At the bottom of the screen, you can see there's a scroll bar. That's because there's more. I can scroll further to the right to see more information. So we have the publisher name. There's an Arabic publisher name there. That's great. The date at which the book was published. Whether or not the book has DRM. Here we see a few of them have LCP. There is a duration column, because a book can be an audiobook. It has a duration. I might want to sort my books in terms of which one's the longest, which one's the shortest book. And then we have description metadata supplied by the publishers. It's usually a lot of text, so you can see that the cell is quite small in the table and it's scrollable. And you can copy-paste it as well, or you can open the large information sheet for the book and you can read the entire description from there. It's much more convenient. But that gives you an idea of what's in there. So, I said that I would talk about our roadmap and what we plan to implement in the coming months. I did mention annotations. It's a big one. We'd like to have it in this year. We already have the fundamental building blocks, but there's quite a lot more we need to do to make it accessible and really usable. So that is text input. As a user, I want to be able to enter my annotations, just simple text to start with. But very importantly, we want to make this system interoperable, meaning I want to be able to import existing annotations from somebody else, a friend of mine or a publisher. And I want to be able to export my own annotations and share them with people, right? And for that, we need a standard, and there is a standard. It's a W3C standard, and we're going to be working towards implementing support for the existing formats. We also want to improve our TTS text-to-speech experience. So there are ways that content creators, publishers, authors, can include pronunciation rules in the books, how to pronounce certain words, because sometimes it sounds a little off if it's not explicitly explained. So we're planning on improving that. We are also going to work on improving the reading experience for DIS people, D-Y-S. That is, for example, and quite typically, dyslexic readers. There is a specification called EPUB accessibility metadata, and there has been a recent update to this specification, and we want to make sure that we are compliant with the specification. And it's all about publishers supplying their accessibility metadata. Is this book compatible with the screen reader? Does it contain audio or flashing animations, hazards if I'm a user who has issues with flashing animations? So all of that metadata is very important, and we want to be able to surface it in Thorium in the information sheet and present it in a way that is compliant with the specification. Of course, there's a lot of continuous maintenance. We address security issues in our software dependencies. We have quite a strict release process for that. We fix bugs regularly, and we improve performance as well on a regular basis. This is my last slide, by the way, so one particular point of interest, and I think we'll hear more from Ivan later today, There is a test suite for EPUB 3.3. It's effectively EPUB 3. And there is now a very rich, strict test suite. There are about 130 small unit tests. It's individual EPUB publications that you can select, open in Thorium, all 100 of them, and you test Thorium or any reading systems to make sure that the features in EPUB are correctly implemented. The reason I mention this here is because we think that with our new bookshelf data grid and the custom tags, we can help testers, people who will actually spend the time running this test, all 100 and plus of them. We can help them manage the workflow, because you can't do that in one day. So if you can add your own tags, to do, I've done this remains on my to-do list, whatever. OK, so links in the slides. I will publish the slides online. You will be able to click on those links. Finally, Thorium is free. It's open source software. It's free for you to use, but it's not free to make. So really, all contributions are welcome: financial, testing, user feedback, translations, anything. For that, I want to say gracias. And the links at the bottom of the slides here will take you to our GitHub open source code, to a sponsor page as well at the EDRLab organization on GitHub, and to EDRLab.org, where you can find out more if you want to join the organization. That's it from me. If we have any time for questions, I'll be happy to take some.
Daniel, any chance that there will also be a mobile version, Android, iOS of Thorium?
No chance.
No.
Clear, thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, not that we don't want to, but the technology stack that is used is completely incompatible with mobile platforms.
Exactly.
So.
And already we decided to make this software for Windows, Mac, Linux. And it's based on what we call Readium Desktop, so the toolkit for desktops. And it's complementary for the Readium Mobile toolkit and the Readium Web toolkit that are focusing on other technologies. So there is, if your question is there or will there be a Thorium Reader based on Readium Mobile on Swift and iOS? The answer is also no. It's also no, because the Readium Mobile toolkits are really there for many people to develop their own application. And for EDRLab, it's already a big burden to develop Thorium Reader. And it would be both a big burden to develop the equivalent for mobile, and it would be also something that would cut the collaboration we've got with other makers of applications on mobile with Readium. So it would be not a good solution.